Okay. All right. So as I was saying today, I'd like to talk about authentication using OAuth. All right, let's minimize that. If someone could verify that we are broadcasting indeed. Okay, so let's create a new. We are? Thank you. I'm just going to create a brand new essentials here. Just making sure that we can do it from scratch. Okay, let's see. OAuth. And let's do it in another directory. We'll call it the lectures directory. Let me stop this. Create a directory here. We'll do add lectures, and under here the lecture is about OAuth. And we can use OAuth to authenticate with lots of third-party developer APIs. But in this particular lecture, we're going to talk about how to use Google's OAuth implementation. Okay, so we'll go to Google, and we're going to have a couple of pages here. We're going to have a login page, login HTML. We're going to have a profile page, and we'll have a home page. So it'll be home.html. Okay? All right. Let's copy some. Let's declare something here like a CSS directory in here, and maybe some JavaScript as well. And let's copy in here. Let's see. Let's go to the download directory, and let's see what I have here. I have Bootstrap, so I'm just going to copy the entire Bootstrap CSS directory. And likewise, I'm going to take jQuery's implementation. I'll just copy the whole thing here. There we go. Okay, so let's go into our login page. So there's my login page, and I'm going to load my script, src, go up 1, JS, my jQuery, and then my Bootstrap, link, href, CSS, Bootstrap. Okay. All right. All right. So let's see. So let's go. Let's create here a div real quick. Div class equal container and h1. This is our login page. So this login, and what we need to do is use a link that says that goes to Google, goes off to Google, saying I want to log in using Google. Class will be maybe button and button danger, and we'll say here this is G+, login with Google. Okay, and let's run this. Right now, it's not doing anything, right? It's just a plain HTML page saying login with Google. Okay, not much there. So let's go to Google. So here I have a couple links to Google's OAuth. First, we have to go to Google Developer Console, and here's where we can implement, declare several projects. Right? It says, I'm creating a brand new project. Right, so we can create a new project. Let's see, we have been building a project about donation, right? So let's create a project. We'll call it donations, and that's the project ID. I'm just going to copy that. Keep a that's a project name. Donations. The project ID. Project ID is that's a made up ID, unique ID that is generated by Google, right? You can generate your own, but then you have to guarantee that it's unique, right, across all projects. So let's create that, and we'll say that we want to we need to identify what APIs we want to use from Google. I mean, there's tons of APIs, right? There's the Map API, there's Google Plus API, there's Blogger, there's tons of them, right? It's still going, and there it is, right? So we can then say, well, for this particular application, what APIs do you want to use? So we can go to the APIs and select which APIs we want. Right? By default, it creates these. It turns on these 4 APIs. Okay, that they're pushing, for their cloud on the cloud initiative. Right? But if you don't need them, you can turn them off. But if we want to turn on, for instance, Google Plus, here's Google Plus. We can turn it on. And there's a whole bunch of things. We can turn on Google Hangouts. We can turn on, quite a few things, right? Quite a few APIs. The calendar, Blogger. But these are the only. The Google Play is the only one I really care for. We can look at the overview. This can you can add other things to your project. For right now, we just want to give it a couple of permissions so that we can access it from outside. Right. So this is the owner. These are a couple of accounts. We can say billing and settings. So we're not, if you really want to start using it in production for real, right? Then you should, you can set up billing depending on how much you're going to be using monthly and things like that. But we're not going to be near that. So I'm not going to turn this on. So I'm going to go to credentials, and says, well, I want to use OAuth, right? So we're going to turn on a client ID. So, well, how do you want to access it? Do you want to access it through a phone? Do you want to access it through the server? Do you want to access it from a web client? What do you want to do? Right? Depending on where you're going to be accessing it from, you need to configure different things. For instance, if it's a server, there is no redirect URL, right? There's no way for you to redirect it to a URL because there is no URL because it's a server. So anyway, so it is a web application that we're building. We're going to say yes. And on the right-hand side, it has the login page that it's going to use to authenticate the user through web. Yes, on the right-hand side, and it allows you to configure it, maybe change the logo so that it looks a little bit more like your application, right? Because remember, you're leaving your application, right? This is our application, and you're going to use a URL that takes you to Google's domain, right? And then they have their own look and feel, their branding, their whatever, right? You're no longer in your application, so they allow you to a little bit customize it just a tiny bit. So product name, we're going to use donations 2.0. Everything else is optional. Right? Everything else is optional. Let's save. Terms, privacy, Google Plus page, privacy, okay. And that is my email, yep. Let's say okay, let's save. And again, it says, okay, so is it, you told me that this was for a web application, right? So this is all being used inside of a web application. Tell me the URL where your application lives. Right, so that I can make sure that indeed it is coming from you, right? I want to make sure that the domain is the correct domain, right? Right now we're not running on any domain. I'm running locally, right? So So our application is this one. Our HTTP, it's this one, right? That's our domain. It's localhost, right? And that port, right? Which is fine. It works. And when you're running this remotely on the server, right? It will need to be net4.ccs. Yada yada yada. That's going to be the domain. Okay. All right. So I'm going to copy that, and you're going to have to come here and reconfigure this, right? So that if you're running locally when you're testing, correct, it's going to be one domain. But when you're running it on net4, it's going to be some other domain, right? Then so be careful, right? Because it says, oh, I don't know why it's running locally, but it's not running when I publish it on net4 or OpenShift, right? It'll have to be that domain with that port. Make sense? Right. So I'm going to paste it here, and then it says, okay, now you need to tell me if the person successfully logs in, right? I need to notify you that it was successful, right? I need to redirect you back to your page saying yes, they successfully logged in. Right? And I will pass you the access code in that URL, right? So that URL is, in our case, is let's say it's the profile, okay? So it's the profile page. So it would be what? It'll be login profile.html. There's nothing there right now, right? But I'm going to copy that as the URL that I want you to notify me back. Okay, right? So we can go back here and then copy and paste it here. It says that's how I want you to notify me back, right? Make sure, makes sense. So let's build that, and it's generating. Okay, so it's generating several things here. One of the things that it's generating is this client ID, right? So the way we're going to authenticate ourselves in the URL, when we say, hey, I want to log in using Google. When I do that, I'm going to have to pass this client ID and say, hey, it's me, right? It's me. I'm trying to log in to my application. Please authenticate the user, right? Make sure that they are who they say they are, right? And then return to me the access code for that particular ID, for that particular user. Right? All right. So let's leave this page open for a second, and let's copy this. That's the client ID. So in this URL, we're going to provide that information in this URL right here in this login, right? Because we're not logging in locally, we're going to log in through Google. So we have to provide that URL here. So we have to build that URL based on that ID. So let's go back here. A couple of things here. Google console. Blah blah blah. There we go. Here, this URL. So this is different depending on whether you're logging in from Android or iOS, or you're logging in from the back end using a server side, right? Or you're logging in from a web, right? So it's different. Here, this page is for authenticating specifically from a web page. Okay, the URL that we need to use is this one right here. Right? That's the URL that we need to use that will go to Google to authenticate. Right, so we're going to copy that. I'm going to copy and I'm going to paste it here in this URL. And we need to provide a couple things here, a couple arguments. We need to provide a couple arguments. The response type, meaning, I want you to not only when you respond, what I want from you is an access token. Right? Now that I have that access token, that tells me that that person successfully authenticated. Right? I want you to give it back to me. Right? So I need to provide a response type. I want a token. Right? Also, I'm going to provide the client ID, which we just copied and pasted. Right? So I'm going to put it here. It's this big. Let me copy it from the web page. It's this one, right? Let me just copy from here. Oops, not this one. So client ID, I'm going to paste it here. There it is. Let's see, what else do we need to provide? Let's see. And redirect URI is that, if you successfully log in, if the person successfully log in, notify me back of where of my profile page, right, or my home page or whatever. Now this redirect URI needs to match exactly the URL that we gave it when we configured this. Okay, they have to match. It'll authenticate. It'll validate that indeed it's that. It's not because we don't want somebody because this page, right, this login page is public. It's public. Somebody can actually look at that URL, right? It says, "Ooh, I have the access ID, right? I have the client ID, right? I could thwart this, right? If I take that same login and I copy it and paste it in my login page, my fake login page, so people when they log into Google successfully, they will be redirected to my page, not to the original page, but to my page, right? I might try to, like try somebody in the middle and make people believe that I'm back from America, but I'm not, right? But that's fine because here I'm going to provide the redirect URL over here and say, and this has to match exactly, right? Obviously, this is going to go back to my domain, not their domain, right? So there's no way that they can thwart this and provide a URI that is anything different than other than what I initially configured. So there's no way that they can redirect it to somewhere else, right? So anyway, so what did I configure? I believe it was this one, right? That's the URL. There it is. So URI, it's this. Okay. All right. Anything else does it need? Scope. So scope is Google's mechanism by controlling how much power are you giving this person who's logging in, right? How much do they want to be able to access? Is it public information? Do they want things that are profile information? Do they want to, how much are you letting them initially access through this login, right? And I mean, we can configure that says we want to give them all powers, right? They have everything. Or what Google suggests is that we do incremental scopes, right? First you provide a summary data for what's public, and then if you want anything that is more private, you ask for more scope. How wide is the access that you're giving this person who's logging in, right? I'm going to ask for the basic information, right? The profile information, right? What you would normally be able to access if you go to my Google account profile, right? In Google Plus, right? So we're going to say scope and say I want the scope to be, right? And for the scopes that are available, if you go to login scopes, there's a list of various scopes. This is a profile, right? This is the regular profile information. As if I were logging into my to my profile in Google Plus, or I can give them access to my emails, right? So more additional powers, right? That I can be able to read, right? That you can modify my emails. You can send emails and so forth. I'm gonna start off with the the very basics. So I'm gonna paste here the login. Right? So that's a very complex URL, right? So there it is. So let's try it out. Before we do that, let's add here in the profile page, because this is where it's going to come back to us, right? If it's successful. We're going to go log in. I'm going to copy my script and my link. I'm going to paste it in my profile. So this is my profile page. This profile. And this is going to be div class container. This is going to be h1 profile. Okay. All right. So so my it would look something like this, right? So this is where it's going to end up if we successfully log in. Make sense? All right. So let me go back to my login page. Here's my login page. I'm going to refresh. If I hover over this, notice that the URL is way down there, right? It's a very long URL that is identifying this. We're going to go to accounts.google.com. We're going to use OAuth 2 to authenticate ourselves, and this is the ID of the of the donations project client ID, right? And we want to be redirected to our profile.html, right? So let's do that. Let's go there. There it is. So it comes here and says, notice that at the top, it says donations 2.0. That's the name we chose for this project, right? That's and it says, okay, what do they want? They want to So since it doesn't know me, right? It's the very first time I log in. It says, "Are you okay with would like to have offline access?" Really? Okay. I accept, and then it takes me to my profile page, right? So now that I'm on my profile page, notice that it passes me the access token. You see the access token way up there, right? That access token says this person, right? This particular person is trying to access this particular IP. It has this permission from this project or to this project to access certain things, right? And that project only has access to those kinds of APIs, right? The ones that we turned on. We turned on the one for Google Plus and for Google Hangout, I believe, right? Right. So that token is has all that information. It's this particular user, right, that wants to access this particular APIs, right? And notice that at no time does my application know anything about the original user. Right? It doesn't know anything about their credentials or anything, right? What it has is an access token which will die after about an hour, right? It will be the session will terminate, and this access token will be no good anymore, right? Until next time I log in. Okay. All right. So now we want to access that API. Let's see how we can do that. First, we need to parse out that URL. All right. So let's parse it out. Let's go to my profile page. This is the profile. Okay. And let's see. Let's add a script here, and let's add jQuery, and let's look at the URL that was coming back. Okay, so for instance, let's look at the href. You can get the href from window.location. No, that href console display that. See what it looks like. So if I open this up my console and I F2. F12 now. Where's my console? There it is. So that's my HTTP, my href, right? What I want to extract is the access code. And the access code, notice that is right after that hash. See that? Right. So let's retrieve it. We can get the hash from window.location location.hash. Here's the hash, right? And the hash has tons of stuff here. You know, the number of sessions, the prompt, the session state, the act. But what we really want is this, the access token. So let's parse that out of here. Let's see. What we could do is, there's a, yes. I'm not sharing my screen. I thought I did I? I went here. Can you see my screen now? I clicked on the and share screen. I could have sworn I did. Is buffering? Okay. All right. So here's the hash. I'm going to remove the. I'm going to remove that first hash from here. I'm going to just remove that real quick. So I'm going to say hash equal hash substring of 1, meaning start from 1 and then the whole thing, right? So this is my access. There it is. There's a couple of libraries that allow you to do this, right? That it parses the it parses the query string and allows you to it creates a map for you, right? I'm not going to use that plugin. I'm just going to show you how to do it real quick. What I'm going to do, I'm going to say hash is equal to hash. I'm going to split this by ampersand, because ampersand is the, notice the delimiter between all these parameters. Yeah, right. So hash split on ampersand. It turns it into an array, right? It turns it into an array. That's the first one. See the first one? There it is. Okay. But it could not be the first one. It could be the last one. We don't know, right? It's not guaranteed that it's the first one. So we're going to iterate over this, looking for that particular one, right? So I'm going to iterate over the hash. I'm going to iterate. So for var h in hash. So each one of these is going to be a parameter. So each one of these is going to be a parameter, and we have to split on the equal sign, right? Because on the left side of the equal sign will be the name of the key, and the right-hand side will be the value of that key. Yes. So param will be equal to hash sub h, and we're going to split. We're going to split. We're going to say param is equal to param split on the equal sign. Okay, and we'll do console on each one of the params. There they are, right? These are all the parameters, right? And we're going to iterate looking for access token. Again, typically it will be the first one, but it's not guaranteed to be the first one, right? So we're going to just brute force look for that particular key, right? Is it sharing the screen? So I'm gonna have here a variable that's where I'm going to put my access token. Access token is null at first. Right? It's not there, and I'm going to check to see, if param sub 0, that's the key, right? If that's equal to access token, right? Then I found it, right? Then access token is equal to param sub 1. Right? Make sense? So at the end of this if statement, we can say console, hopefully log access token. There it is. So we found it. Okay, wait, it's inside the for loop? No, it has to be outside of the for loop, right? There it is. The access token is right there. Okay? Now we have this access token, meaning says this only tells us that the person has successfully authenticated, right? If you want to, and here is the permission for you to keep talking to me, right? You've authenticated yourself. I know who you are. Now, every time you talk to me, pass this token to me. Yes, pass it back to me, and I'll know that it's you. Okay, right? Until it times out, right? The token will time out after 3,600 seconds or 1 hour. Okay, right? Now we have the token, We have the token. Now we actually want to use the API. Notice that we haven't used the API yet, right? The only thing we've done is authenticate ourselves and gotten the permission to access the API. Now let's use the API. The API that we want to use is, in this case, it's the Google API, Google Plus API. All right, let's go back here, and if we look for look for Google Plus API. There it is. Go there. That's the URL by which I talk to the Google API. But every time I talk to it, I need to pass that access code. That's how it's going to know that I have access to that, right? Okay. Notice that if I just pass it, the URL is as follows, right? The last piece of it, this, right, is an ID. It's a unique identifier for every user. Okay. It does have a special value of me. That means the currently logged in user that has successfully authenticated. Okay. If we click on that, daily limit of unauthenticated users exceeded, meaning I haven't authenticated myself. I haven't provided the access code. Right. If I provide the access code, which we have here, I believe, there it is. I'm going to copy it. I go back to my URL and say access code, access token. That's from a previous token. Okay, there it is. So I was able to, now I provided my access code, right? And it comes back telling me, oh yes, that's Jose Anunciato, right? That's their Google Plus account. That's an image, a thumbnail, their occupation, faculty, skills, blah blah blah, right? Where he has lived. This is all part of my public profile. Okay, and we want to do this programmatically, right? We're going to do this from JavaScript, right? And here's the ID. Where's the ID? That's the ID. That ID uniquely identifies me. Okay, so that I could, instead of me, right, replace that with the ID, right, and have the same exact information. And that's the ID that we need to remember, right? Whenever we create any content, right, whenever we create posts or whatever in our local database, right, we want to be able to remember anything. If they're bookmarking something, if they're storing something locally in our database, it's going to be that ID, right? Because it's not by username, okay? It's not by Jay and Noonzy or whatever, right? It's by ID. So that's the ID that we would need to store in the database to say, oh, that particular user logged in through Google, right, created this particular content. Make sense? Right? Okay, so we have that. So that's the ID. Let's see if we can grab it from JavaScript. Right? So what we want to be able to do, that's the URL we want, right? That's the URL we want. That's the Google API. We're just going to copy it again. Now we have the access token. We have the access token. What we need to do is programmatically hit the Google Plus API. We're going to use Ajax for that, right? And say we're going to use the URL that Google Plus tells us to use. The special token we're going to use is me, right? Meaning the currently logged in user, based on the access code, access token that I have just received from Google, right? That means that this person has successfully been authenticated. Now, if I would have logged in as someone else, I would have gotten another token, and that me might have been something about somebody else. Okay, so if I log out and then log in again as someone else, that me will be someone completely different. Okay, so I'll use the access token plus the access token, and then do success function in the response. Okay, and I'm going to do console log response. All right. So let's go back here. My profile. Wait, what happened to my profile? Oh, it's in the other. It's on the other site, right? It's on the other browser here. So I'm going to clear this. Oh wait, I don't want to do that. I want to do this. I'll refresh. Oops. Let's see what happened. HTTPS. Did I copy it wrong? Google API, blah, 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 /me, access token, not found. Interesting. Network. Access token, not found. Response. Did I spell this right? User ID. Oh, yes. I hate computers. That user ID, right? I have to remove that. Try it again. Go console. Refresh. Okay, that's the object. See, that's the same object. Right, there it is. Display name, Jose Anunciato, the ID, the image, right? Right. The URL for the image, faculty at College of Computer Information, the skills, blah, 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 URLs. Okay, you see that? I was able to retrieve the information for that user. Okay. Okay. Oops. Ah. Oh no. Last time it stopped recording. Can you verify it's still recording? Screen share. Everybody. Okay, stop me if you see that it stopped recording, please. Okay. Okay. All right, let me actually change. Let's go back here and say that I really want to go not to the profiles. Let me go to my home page, right? We can change that by going to our developer, right, and console, and say, you know, we're in the donations, we are in the credentials, we have, this is the redirect. I can change the settings, and actually I want to go to home.html. Okay, we say update, and now I'm going to go here. I'm going to change my home page. I'm going to copy this, the same information I had for the profile. I'm going to copy. Well, I'm going to copy the whole thing into home. Okay, and this is going to be my home, and this is going to be home. Okay, and in home, we're going to. I just want to display here. I want to display here inputs, my user, my ID. Okay, so ID, user ID. Okay, and in here, notice that the URL that comes back, the data that is coming back, it's inside the ID is inside of the object.id. You see that, right? So let's grab it from there. Okay. So here's the object in the coming back from our Ajax. We can say, let's grab the ID. What does it call? Did I call it user ID? I did, right? User ID. I want to set the value to the response.id. Okay. So let me try this again. We go here and log in. Oops. What happened? Oh, I'm the wrong browser. Sorry. Let me go to my login. 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 What's wrong? Oh, the redirect page changed, right? So my link has to change, right? So let me go back here and go to login. And in login, I need to change my redirect. It has to match exactly what I configured. Right, so let's go back here, and here's the redirect. Lectures, Google profile. It needs to go to home, right? Home. There we go. We go back. Let me refresh this. What happened? Here's my login. It's my login. Refresh. Click. Okay, it goes home, right? And that's my ID. You see my ID? Very good. I also want to extract maybe the full name. What else is in this object? The display name. So let's also add the display name. So display name. Display name. So this is display name. And let's just paint this real quick. This is CSS, class equal form control. There we go. So we have the information, right? So now I want to go to my profile, right? I want to go to my profile, and so I'm going to create a link here and say a href, right? And I'm going to go to profile. And I'm going to change it to ASPX because I'm going to hit the database, right? I want to be able to hit the database, and I want to provide the ID, user ID. I want to provide actually I'm gonna do this dynamically, right? I'm gonna do this dynamically. Right, so this is going to be ID profile link, right? And the profile link is going to be what? It's going to be called profile. Did I call it profile link? The source, I want to change the attribute source. src. I'm going to set it to profile.aspx question mark user ID equal to response.id. Okay. Do that again. Let's reload it. If I hover over it, notice that it says lectures Google Home, and it's not adding it. What happened? Home.html profile. Wait, the link should be profile. What happened? Attribute source. Is this the wrong name? ID profile link. Profile link. Oh, href. No, I changed it. Oh, href, not source. Right? Href, not source. Href. Okay, if I hover over it, it'll go profile. There we go. Right? But I need a profile.aspx, right? So let's rename profile.html to profile.aspx. Let's change this to profile.aspx. I need to stop this. And let's rename it to profile.aspx. ASPX. Okay. Now let's see if this works. I click on here. Okay, it goes to profile, right? So what we want to do here is, retrieve anything that you have posted, right, for that particular user. Okay. So what we could do is I believe we have a database set up for this, right? and we have posts. Yes, and this posts has the author username. Well, the author username was based on the username of the developer. Remember that, right? Well, let's reuse this, right, to store the ID in there. Okay, so let's do that real quick. What we want to do here, let's use ASPX. Where's ASPX? We could use the DAO design pattern that we've been using for the last week or so, but for time's sake, I'm just going to drag a source in here, grid view. Okay, it'll be easier. All right. Okay, so here's profile, and I am going to remove all this. And in here, I'm just going to drag a post. Okay, I'm going to go in the design. I'm going to go to Server Explorer. I'm going to drag a post in here. I'll drop it in there. Okay, and if I go into my source, right, the select statement, right, the select statement that is using, right, it needs to be parameterized, right? So that uses the user ID as the filter, and only give me the posts that were generated by this particular user. Make sense, right? So let's go to the select. Let's go find select. There's my select. So I'm going to filter this. I'm going to say where user, what is it? Where author username is equal to user ID. Okay, and then I'm going to create a parameter, select parameter, and I'm going to say, well, grab the parameter from the query string, right? From the query string, and the name is what did I call it? User ID, right? User ID. The type is a string, and the query string is also called user ID, right? Is it? Yes, user ID. Okay, so I want to use that as a filter, right? So show me all the posts for that particular user. Yes. So depending on who I log in, I'll have different posts, right? User ID. What else? That's it, right? Very good. So if I refresh this, there are no posts, right? There are no posts because I haven't created one, right? There are no posts that whose username. What's that S? Do I have an extra S somewhere? Oh, that S. So real quick, we're gonna go to a page that allows us to post. Yes, allows us to post. So we'll do a link here. We'll say href new post .aspx, right? And it says that the user ID is going to be the same user ID that we have in our query, which is it's in our request, right? Requests, and then the oops, and it's a user ID. User ID. Let's say new post, and we can paint this class equal button primary. Oops. What is it? What is it? Description. Error. Blah blah blah. Request. Did I misspell that? Request. User ID. What is it that doesn't like about it? An error occurred. So please review the following. Identifier expected. And identifier expected. Identifier expected. Doesn't want an ID, does it? Oh, does it really want me to do this? Like that? Oh, it wants to be outside of the form. Okay. Where is it? Is it in P? Oh, no, I can't because the request needs to be inside of the form. What is it that doesn't like? Requests, user ID. What? Request, yes. User ID. What's wrong with that? Let me see something. Go back here. This is the profile, right? Oh, it really doesn't like this. Request, profile. Huh. What don't you like about that? I'm sorry? Square brackets? Oh, no, no. No, no. Or maybe. It should be. It is? Why do I always thought it was square brackets? Did I use square brackets two weeks ago? Oh, am I confusing this with session? Isn't session with square brackets? Am I confusing it with session? Okay, let's go back here and let's paste it in here. See that? Hover over this. Okay, session. All right. So okay, so now if I go to to new post, okay, we don't have new post, right? Do we have new post? We don't, right? So let's create a new post. Let's go here and let's create new post. Add a web form, new post.aspx. We go, now it goes here. Very good. Let's copy a couple of things from here. New post, we'll say it's this one. And in here, we're just gonna drag over a new form, right? So there's gonna be h1 new post. This is gonna be class equal container, and here is gonna be our form to be able to post something new. So we'll go to tools, and we'll go to data, and we'll drag over a oh wait, no, we'll drag the same post, right? The same post, there it is. We need to be in design, but we don't want the grid view, so we're going to throw away the grid view. Instead, what we want is right before that, we want to add a details view, right? Details view. There it is. And we wanted to use that same data source. And we want to enable insertion, right? And what else do we need to do? Do we need to turn on a couple of things here? Behavior default mode is insertion, right? Insert. We're going to save that. Save. Let's refresh. So here's the new post. Finally, we can type something, right? So title 1, 2, 3, content 1, 2, 3. Oh, the author name should be this over here, right? That should be the author name, right? Correct? So we can, if we go back to here, when we do the insertion, right? When we go here, we go to the data source, and we say source, the insert, right? The insert that this uses, where is it? The insert, there it is. The author username, this parameter, I want it to be from the query string, right? Because that's the ID that I have in the query string, right? Remember, right? So what we're going to do here is that our insert, you say the insert, okay, there already is a parameter author username, but instead of being a regular parameter, we're going to use a query parameter, right? So we're going to create a query parameter name, it's that one, right? And we're gonna, this is going to be, the type is string, and the value, I'm going to grab it from the query string, and it's called user ID. Correct? That makes sense, right? And since that's the case, we no longer need the author name field, right? Because that's going to be populated for us, right? So we're going to remove this field, this author field. We're going to remove that. So let's refresh this. Okay, there it is. So here's title 1, 2, 3, content 1, 2, 3, insert. Let's go back. All right, once we insert, we want to go back to redirect it back to the profile, right? Redirect it. So we're going to say on insert. Oh no, wait. On insert. Sorry, not here. Over here, right? We're going to say on insert. On inserted, we want to create an event. In that event, we're just going to go back to the profile, right? We're going to say string user ID is equal. We're going to retrieve from the request. So it's not this. Oh, here's okay. Okay, so in the code behind it is a map. Okay, and we're going to redirect back to the profile, right, with the same user ID. So we're going to say, so the URL, we're going to say response.redirect back to the profile, ASPX, where user ID is equal to user ID. Correct? Let's try again. So title 234, content 234, insert. All right, it goes back. Notice that now it shows the content for that particular user. See that? Right? Okay. So say I go to my Google account and this times out, right? Because Google is kind of remembering that I am logged in. Yes. So let me log out. Let me go to Gmail. I'm going to log out from here. So I'm going to sign out. Okay. And let me go back to my login page. Let me go back to my login page. Okay, and I try to log in. Now notice that it remembers that this is, last time you logged in as Giannuzzi, right? It says no, I want to sign in as someone else. Okay, so I sign in. I'm going to sign in as another account. I don't remember the email, the password for this one. Let's see. Let me look it up. Okay, so the email is CS. I did it just for testing. CS1001 @gmail.com, and it's a complicated password. So I sign in, and yes, this is a brand new person who's logging in. It'll be a different access code, right? It's a different access. It's the same name. I have the same name, but it's a different ID. If I go to my profile, there are no posts for this particular profile, right? So I'm going to say new post. I'm going to do another title. The other titles were what? Were 1, 2, 3, and 2, 3, 4. There's going to be title, ABC, and content ABC. Insert, and then I'm going to post here another one. Title CBS and content CBS. Right, insert. Right. Now I go back to my Google account, and I would like to sign out. How do I sign out? Wait a minute. Sign out. Sign out. Okay. Now it's asking me, well, okay, I know 2 Google accounts for you. Which one do you want to use, right? But let me go back to my login page. Right? And I can sign in. Notice that I'm signed out, right? But if I choose this one, so it asks me to log in. I sign in. I go to my profile. Notice that it's titled 1, 2, 3, and 2, 3, 4 now. See that? Right? So again, we've generated content based on whoever logs in, right? Using Google's OAuth authentication, based on that ID. So that's the ID for that one, and the ID is different for each one. That makes sense? Okay. Let's see. Do we have time? I think we have just enough time to get started on the, how would you do this on ASP, right? Some of you instead of using this kind of login, you're using the the local ASP.NET login mechanism, which is fine, right? Let's start. I don't think I'll finish today, but let's get started on that. What's challenging is trying to handle both, right? That I'm going to allow you how to log in through ASP.NET, but I'm also going to allow you to log in through Google, right? One is kind of based on usernames. This is based on IDs, and you kind of have to keep the logic on how is it you logged in, right? Because one of them gives you a kind of a logout mechanism, whereas the other one just times out, right, after an hour or so, right? So there's no explicit logout. So the other one is very tied into the .NET ASP framework. The other one is not, right? It's just using JavaScript to maintain an ID. Make sense? One of them is based on the session, which is maintained by the Net4 IIS server, which is maintaining your session, whereas the Google the session is being maintained by Google, right? So it's kind of it's challenging to have to maintain both, right? So let's build something real quick here. Let me go back to my Solution Explorer. Right. All right, I already had started. Let me start from scratch, right? Because I already have a solution here. Let me start off from another one. Let me see. Open a website. One of my older ones. This one probably doesn't have it. See. Right, it's opening up another version of the essentials files, right, without any of the login pages, starting from scratch. Okay, so this one doesn't have any of the login pages, right? So let's create here first a login page. Let's say add login. We'll say login ASPX. Okay. So this, I'm not going to add the bootstrap. Right, so I'm just going to have here h1 login, and this is going to be my P. Whoa. Okay. We're also going to create here a registration page. Let's do real quick. Let's add another web form. Add web form registration or register.aspx. Okay, and we're going to have here h1 register. And here we're going to have p. Even though I'm going to have a registration page here, the registration page never has to make it to net4. Okay, it can be local. You can do it how you can. Well, I'm sorry. Yes, it can make it to net4, right? For you to create accounts in the net4 server. Yes, but once you've created, the 5 or 10 or 20 users that you want to use for testing, right? Just remove this page. Okay. Well, once you're all set, that it's it's working fine, right? Okay. So so what we're going to do in the login page is we're going to use one of the toolbox components that are specifically used for login. Okay. So login view. Is it this one? Login status, login view, login name. Okay. So I'm going to drag here login, right? And so this is a component, right, that will allow you to log in. Right? So this one's going to check your credentials against a local database. And you can point it to various databases, right? Right now it's pointing to my local database, but you can point it using a different connection string. Or it allows you to register, right? We're going to add here a link, an additional link here that allows you to register. Notice that the only thing that it creates is this login page, and notice that it's very bland, right? If you want to really make this look any prettier, and you want to apply some styling, you can convert this into a template, right? So it'll convert into smaller pieces, right? That you can theme each piece, right? So for instance, notice what it looks like before I do that, right? It's just one tag. You see that? But if we change that to a template, right, and we save that, and we go back to our source, notice that it created this very sophisticated table, right? You can throw out the table. You can do your own divs and style it any which way you want, right? You can apply classes to each one of these, right? So for instance, you can apply Bootstrap classes to each one of these, right? If you want. Okay. Here we're gonna also add a link that is going to take us to the registration page. Register. Okay. Register. So if we run this, I'm sorry. In the register page, we're going to add now a create user wizard. We're going to drop in there. Okay. So if we're going to design and we drag it in, this will allow us to create users, right? People can provide a username, a password, email, a security question, and answers. Okay, so we're going to save that. Also, you can convert this into a template, right? So you can style it any which way you want, right? All right, so let's go to login. Let's run that. So here's login, the login page in a very bland styling, the default styling, and you can type whatever. There are no users, so obviously it's going to always say failed, right? So the default is to stay in the page when it fails, right? But you can configure to go elsewhere, to like a login failed page. The default is to stay in this page. Right, and give you an error message saying that user doesn't exist. Right, your login attempt was unsuccessful. Excuse me. So let's go and register, and let's create a user. So this is user 123, and the password is going to be maybe user 123, and then shift 123. Let's remember that. What the heck? Dismiss again. Password will be user 123, and then 123. Email will be user@gmail.com. Here's a question. Here's the answer. It creates a user. All right, so by default, the registration page, when you click on continue, is to stay in the same page, right? That's the default. But you can configure that to go, to your home page or your profile page or whatever, right? You can configure it where do you want to go when you successfully register, okay? If we go to the login page and we try login using the credential we just created, user123, user123, and then the password. Login, by default, it goes to the default.aspx. But again, you can configure that as well, right? You can say, I want to go, if it's successful, I want to go to home.aspx or whatever, right? Or to your project ASPX, yes? Okay, but notice that even if we're not logged in, and that's the other thing. Well, how do we log out, right? So let's go to a profile page which doesn't exist. Let's go to a home page, which everybody can access, right? So let's create a web form, a home page, so everybody can go to the home ASPX, right? Regardless of whether you're logged in or not. So let's add here the ability to log out. Right? So let's say home. So home, if we say home here, we have this home, right? So we're going to add here, right above this, perhaps, another div up here. We're going to drag in here a login status. Stop this. If we go to server and the toolbox and you drag in login status, this will tell you whether you logged in or not, right? So if you log in, if we drag that, now notice that it changes, right? If you're logged in, it says log out. If you're logged out, it says logged in, right? So if we click on log out, now we're logged out. We're no longer logged in, right? Okay. So notice that we can go anywhere, right? I mean, if we have a profile, page, right? Which we don't. Do we have a profile page? We don't. So if we have a profile page, usually a profile page would need to be protected, right? It says, well, no, only people that are logged in are able to see a profile, right? So we go to web form and say this is profile.aspx. Notice that even if I'm not logged in, I can access the profile, right? I'm not logged in, right? I can go to profile.aspx. I can go, right? What I want to be able to do is that if you're not logged in, you should not be able to go to the profile page. So we're going to protect that page. We're going to create here a directory, maybe call it, I don't know, protected, right? We're going to drag the profile in there. We're going to drag the profile. Where is it? Here's profile. We're going to put it in protected. I'm going to protect anything that is in that directory. We're going to protect, right? Right now, it is not protected, right? I can still go in there, right? I can say protected. I can still go in there. Right. So the way we're going to protect it is, oh, I had a cheat sheet. Let's see, do I have it here? Let's see, protect subfolder. It's right here. We go into the config page, right, into the web config, and we configure here whatever path, any particular path that we are going to protect, and say, if you want to access that particular path, you have to be logged in, right? So we're going to say that path called protected, right? We're going to deny everybody. We're going to deny everybody unless they are logged in, right? So now if I try and access profile page, notice that it redirects me to my login page. Right, because I am not logged in, right? And notice that it asks the URL, where was your intent? It remembers that that's where you were trying to go, right? So that if you do log in, right? If I do log in successfully, user123, and I log in, it takes me to the profile, right? Because that is where you were trying to go, right? But if I log out, right? If I go, say I go to my home page, and I log out, right, and then I try to go to the profile again, right, it kicks me out to the profile, to the login until I log in, right? Make sense, right? Also, when we log in, user 123 and user 123. When we go to our profile, another thing that we'd like to be able to do is, for instance, now start creating content based on the currently logged in user, right? Just like we know from Google the ID of that person, and then we can create content based on that ID. Yes, same thing here, right? When you post something, we want to be able to do that, right? So we need to know the ID of this person, which we know it's user 123, but we need to know that programmatically, right? So we can go to the profile. So here's profile ASPX, right? We can always get a hold of whoever's logged in, the currently logged in user, using the user.identity.name, right? So we log in and it says that's user 123. See that? Right. So we can always retrieve whoever's logged in, right, by using that. You can also access it in the ASPX, right? In the CSS, right? In the CSS, you can also retrieve it using user.identity.name, right? And that's going to be the username of whoever's logged in, right? Now that you can access it in the code behind, right? You can use data access objects, right? And use these as parameters and says, oh, I want to create a post, or I want to read posts that were posted by somebody. Who's that somebody? That's somebody, right? And you can filter the content that you're displaying, right, in the front end based on that user ID. Make sense? Okay. Again, what's going to be challenging, I don't know that any one of you is doing this, is allowing both methods, right? Logging in using .NET and also logging in as Google. Right? You're gonna have like switch cases. What am I logged in as, right? And behave one way if I'm logged in as Google, or behave another way. Special cases if I'm logged in as .NET. Make sense? All right, I'm gonna leave it here. Any questions? Does this make sense? Right. We will work a little more on this on Wednesday, right? And again, the same idea that we did with Google, creating content, but now based on the logged in user using ASP.NET, right? But I encourage you to play around with this and enhance your applications using login, right? Me preferably, I would use Google's login, right? That's universal, right? And you have full control over what you're doing with the user, right? And you can access tons of APIs, which is pretty cool. All right, thank you.